Hello, this is Dana Parsons. Thank you so much for the opportunity to provide you an update from week 9 of the General Assembly session. Will the General Assembly session end on time? Although the General Assembly is scheduled to adjourn on March 7th, it is not certain whether their work will be completed, especially work related to adopting their 2-year state budget. Budget conferees have been appointed and are working on determining what items will be included in the final budget. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you that reached out to your legislators to help us with our advocacy for increasing reimbursement related to aging services regarding nursing homes, assisted living, and adult day. Thank you so much. We continue to work in this final week of the General Assembly, and whether the General Assembly has to reconvene for a special session, we will continue to work to preserve the increases related to aging services reimbursement. So what's the status of legislation impacting aging services? Senate Bill 913 is related to the hospice program. This legislation specifies that hospice policies and procedures for the disposal of drugs must include provisions for the safe disposal of opioids. This legislation has passed the House and Senate. Senate Joint Resolution 35 is creating a barrier crime study. This legislation is establishing a joint subcommittee to study the Commonwealth's requirements related to barrier crimes and criminal history record checks in the Commonwealth. The resolution directs the joint subcommittee to develop recommendations related to whether statutory provisions related to criminal history record checks, barrier crimes, and barrier crimes exceptions should be reorganized and consolidated within the Code of Virginia. Also, whether certain crimes should be removed from the current list of barrier crimes, whether barrier crime exceptions and waiver processes should be broadened, and whether the required amount of time that must lapse after every conviction of a certain barrier crime should be shortened, and any other changes that could be made to the criminal history records check and barrier crimes requirements that would improve the process. The joint subcommittee must complete its meetings by November 30th of this year and submit its findings and recommendations no later than the first day of the 2020 regular session of the General Assembly. The House has requested a conference committee of legislators to review this bill, so that may mean there could be some changes, so we will continue to monitor the status. Senate Bill 397 is the legislation that originally proposed staffing ratios for nursing homes. We are very pleased that this legislation was amended to direct the Department of Health to convene a work group to review and make recommendations on increasing the availability of the clinical workforce for nursing homes in the Commonwealth. Leading Age Virginia has been named as a member of this work group, and we are very pleased that this legislation is moving forward and has passed the House and Senate. Senate and House Bills 902 are related to the nursing home pre-admission screening process. This legislation is streamlining the process related to pre-admission screenings, so we are very pleased about this legislation moving forward. We are working with the Department of Medical Assistant Services to schedule a WebEx with our members to discuss how to implement this legislation once it's approved. Any legislation that is moving forward typically takes effect once passed by the House and Senate and approved by the governor, typically takes effect on July 1st of that year, unless otherwise stated. So we look forward to working with DMAS on processes to implement this legislation. Senate Bill 185 is the medical cannabis legislation, and it is also moving forward. This legislation is allowing nursing homes and assisted living staff to administer medical cannabis to residents who've received a valid written physician's authorization and registered with the Board of Pharmacy. We are continuing to work with CMS to obtain guidance on the impact to certified communities, and we continue to work with the Office of Licensure and Certification and Board of Pharmacy for guidance on implementing this legislation. It has passed the House and Senate and is definitely moving forward. Senate Bill 686 is related to assisted living individualized service plans. This legislation will create regulations that will streamline the process for having individualized service plans signed each time there is a change. Currently, ISPs have to be signed for every type of change. Regulations, according to this legislation, will be created by the Board of Social Services really to target when there is a significant change in the resident's condition that the ISP would have to be signed at that time. So the minimum wage legislation. This legislation has been very controversial. There are two measures, one in the House and one in the Senate, that are still alive that increase the minimum wage by 2023. One bill increases it up to $11.50. The other bill increases it up to $15 by 2023. A conference committee of legislators has been established. They're looking at this legislation to make recommendations. So we are not certain at this time what that legislation and recommendations are going to look like. If this bill were to die, the governor could send down a bill or amend a bill that is considered to be germane. However, at this time, if recommendations were to move forward to the governor, any advocacy related to this would then be targeted toward the governor's administration. So we'll keep you updated on that. All the legislation that I have mentioned that is moving forward again has been approved by the House and Senate, will go before the governor. He can make changes or sign it. Once approved by the governor, legislation takes effect of July 1st of that year unless otherwise stated. Leading Age Virginia Lobby Day is on April 22nd. We really hope that you will join us that day and really have an opportunity to have your voice heard on Capitol Hill. Our Lobby Day is a part of the Leading Age Leadership Summit. You can come for the entire summit or just for Lobby Day. We really hope that you will take advantage of this great opportunity to really have your voices heard and make an impact for aging services. And also, please save the date for the Leading Age Policy Town Hall on September 17th, which will be held at Westminster Canterbury, Richmond. This is a great opportunity for you to have an opportunity to impact the Leading Age national policy as they develop their policy priorities for the next year. If you have any questions about any of the legislation or issues I've raised today, please feel free to email me and I will get back in touch with you. Thanks again for the opportunity.